Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the BuyLetLive webinar in conjunction with ARM Investment Managers. I believe everyone can hear me. If you can hear me, you can signify with maybe an emoji. I know most of us cannot talk, apart from apart from the guest speaker for today. So if you can hear me, you can signify with an emoji. You can do a reaction on the. You can react so that we know that everyone can hear me clearly. Are we good? So please signify with a reaction. If you can hear me, you can use an emoji. You can do a clap, raise your hand, just anything to show that we can hear me. Mr. Olubiyi, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, loud and clear, very well.
Awesome stuff, awesome stuff. Welcome everyone to the BuyLetLive webinar for today. We run these webinars to educate people on what it means to make the right choice, on how you can make the right investment choices in real estate. So we've covered topics like how to verify titles, how to do legal due diligence for your property, where to find property, what to know, how to take the best advantage of off-plan, fully built properties, and the likes. But for today, one of the most important things that has happened to the real estate sector in Nigeria since the coming of the this current administration on real estate has been the MREIF scheme, which is the Ministry of Finance, scheme for real estate investments. So today we'll be speaking with the man in charge of the of MREIF, and we're running us through how we can take advantage of the mortgage scheme. So it will be demystifying mortgage, especially as related to the MREIF. What is the role of the trustees in it? How can you take advantage of it? And we believe there's no better person to speak on this than Mr. Olubiyi Adekunbi, who is the head of investments at ARM, real estate investments at ARM. So, Mr. Olubiyi, before I pass to you, I'll just do a quick introduction to Mr. Olubiyi. Next slide. So, some background, understanding who we have today and why you should listen to him. He's, like I mentioned earlier, he's the head of real estate investments at ARM, and he leads the MREIF scheme, which is the Ministry of Finance Incorporated Real Estate Investment Fund, which is a 1 trillion fund, and it's managed by ARM Investment Managers. With over 12 years multidisciplinary experience in management, finance, engineering, his role is pivotal to the deployment of long-term and low-cost mortgage financing to empower Nigerians to own homes, both Nigerians based here in Nigeria and those in the diaspora. He has been recognized for structuring high-impact public and private partnerships that align housing policy with private investments. So I'll keep it brief and then get to hear more from him as we go on, so you understand why we brought you the best of the best to speak about this. Over to you, sir, Mr. Olubiyi. We're glad to have you here. We believe that many people will leave here taking decisions and knowing for sure, demystifying mortgage, all those questions around, does mortgage work in Nigeria? This MREIF I've been hearing all around, what really is this about? I'm sure people will leave here very well aware of what it is and how they can take advantage, either as a Nigerian based in Nigeria or a Nigerian in the diaspora. So thank you so much for being our guest today. Over to you, sir. I think we would share your slides where you run us through the MREIF scheme, and then we'll go into question and answer session. Some bit of housekeeping for attendees. If you have any question, you can drop it in the chat. We'll take your questions and we'll ask Mr. Olubiyi as we progress. So we might interject with questions from the audience, just so we have a robust session. Over to you, sir.
Okay. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Gbenga. Thank you for the kind introduction. So yeah, I'm here to, give you insights into the MREIF. It's a government-sponsored but private sector driven initiative set up to address the housing deficit in Nigeria. It was sponsored by the Ministry of Finance Incorporated under the guidance of the Minister of Finance. And essentially, the challenges in the housing sector has been one that's growing concern. The deficit is estimated to be over 28 million housing units. And to be able to efficiently address that, the country is required to provide at least 700 to 1.4 million housing units annually over the next 20 years. Unfortunately, we are only currently able to provide a supply of 100,000 housing units annually, which means that within the next 20 years, we are unable to address that deficit. That's led to the current administration to look for additional ways to address this deficit. And what that led to was the creation of MREIF, the Ministry of Finance Incorporated Real Estate Investment Fund, which is a Securities and Exchange registered vehicle and governed under the rules and regulations of Securities and Exchange Commission, primarily with the objective of improving home ownership by addressing the deficit from two perspectives. From the demand side, it focuses on addressing the long-term and low-cost financing issues that we currently experience. So it provides financing for financial institutions to be able to originate mortgages at low interest rates at long term. And then on the supply side, it provides support to private sector developers to be able to access construction finance from construction lenders through the provision of off-take guarantees, conditional off-take guarantees, which essentially act as a credit enhancement towards the raising of construction finance from the developers. How the off-take guarantee works essentially is to give comfort to the lenders such that they can approach to the developers such that they can approach a bank to say they need funding to construct a certain number of housing units, and in the event where the project is completed and they haven't been able to sell sufficient units to pay off the outstanding loan obligation, then MREIF can step in to buy off some of those units, essentially de-risking the project for them, both to the developer and to the construction lenders, ensuring that there's that continuous mechanism for the provision of housing units, which can then be made available to potential home buyers to buy affordable housing units. So MREIF essentially, next slide. MREIF essentially was set up as a 1 trillion naira fund, which is intended to be rolled out in phases. The first phase of the fund, the pilot phase, has successfully raised a total of 250 billion in the Series 1 and Series 2 fundraise. In the Series 1 fundraise, was able to successfully raise 150 billion naira from the federal government at concessionary interest rates, and then an additional 100 billion naira from the private sector, from qualified institutional investors, creating a pool of blended financing, which can then be made available to financial institutions at very low rates to be able to provide mortgages that are affordable and available for the long term. And essentially, the funding will be aimed towards addressing the deficit from the demand side, which essentially is the provision of long-term low-cost mortgages at single digits and up to 20 years. And then the cash-backed guarantees to developers, which enables them source for construction finance for raising funding for the development of their projects. Next slide. In terms of the mortgage features, in terms of what MREIF is able to make available to home buyers. So if you're interested in MREIF, the fund can provide up to 100 million naira in mortgage financing, meaning that, if you're looking for a house to buy and provided that your income is sufficient to service the mortgage amount, the monthly repayment. You can access up to 100 million naira at a single digit interest rate of 9.75%. I mean, given the current macroeconomic environment here, where interest rate is closer to 30%, 27% from the monetary policy rates, which means that any commercial lender you're approaching for funding will be providing mortgage facilities to you at nothing less than that rate, at least 25-27%, if not more, which is not sustainable. MREIF's blended financing model ensures that mortgages can be provided at a single-digit interest rate of 9.75%, which is significantly lower than both interest rates and inflation rates. And the mortgages can be made available for up to 20 years, meaning that unlike what is currently obtainable at high interest rates, where mortgages are provided for 4 or 5 years, the mortgages can be made available, as an MREIF applicant for up to 20 years, provided that one, your income can sufficiently service the mortgage, and two, you have the required number of years left to retirement above, within. If you have a certain number of years left to retirement, so provided you have at least 5 years left to retirement, you can apply for MREIF, but no more than 20 years, which means if you are less than 40 years, you can apply for MREIF. And then the closer you are to retirement, the number of years left is what it is you can apply for. MREIF also is positioned to address a significant issue for potential homeowners, in the sense that in most instances, you are required to put down a significant portion in equity to be able to buy your home. What MREIF has also done is all you need to provide is a minimum of 10% in equity financing to be able to access the funding to buy your home. Just to illustrate, given these dynamics that I've given, if you are looking to buy a property worth 50 million naira, for example, at the 10% equity requirement, all you need is a 5 million naira deposit. If you have more than that, yes, you can provide. If you have 25 million, you can provide that as your equity contribution. But what is required is a minimum of 10%, which is 5 million. If the property value is, say, for example, 100 million, what you'll be required is to provide is a minimum of 10%, which is 10 million naira. However, if the property is above 100 million, say, for example, the property is 150 million, MREIF will only provide the maximum of 100 million naira, and you'll be required to provide the balance of 50 million naira to balance up the value of the property. So with that, it makes it very flexible and easily accessible for both those who have the income to be able to service the mortgage, and for those who may not have the required significant equity to be able to shore up the value of the property. Two other things that MREIF also makes possible is MREIF, if you have a pension account in Nigeria, you can access up to 25% of your RSA balance for your equity contribution. So that's also possible. 25% of your equity of your RSA, your retirement savings account in any of the pension fund administrators, can be drawn down and used as part of your equity to acquire your home. MREIF also makes it possible for you to do joint application. So if you are a married couple and you have income that you can combine your income to apply for MREIF, to apply for the maximum limit of 100 million naira. And it's open to both Nigerians or all Nigerians, whether at home or abroad, but solely for the purchase of completed properties in Nigeria. In terms of the requirements for the mortgage application, it's required that you have the minimum equity contribution of 10%. You need to be able to demonstrate that you have a verifiable source of income to be able to service the mortgage. In accessing the maximum of 100 million naira in your mortgage, your monthly repayment, both principal and interest, would be anywhere between 900 and 950,000 naira. So using 1/3 of your income to be able to service that amount in a mortgage, you would need to have sufficient income to cover that on a monthly basis. You also need to have a valid offer letter from a property that has valid title. So the seller of the property needs to be able to give you an offer letter on a property that has title, registered title, either a certificate of occupancy or a deed of assignment or sublease with governor's consent. You would also be required to have a good credit report, meaning that you either do not have any non-performing loans or you do not have any outstanding facilities that will hinder your ability to access the mortgage financing. You would also be required to provide the typical documentation in applying for a mortgage, the evidence of your income, your proof of address, your pay slips, birth certificates, and whatnot. So it's a very seamless process, and it makes it very easy for any potential owner to acquire their property. On the application process, MREIF also makes it that there are two ways you can apply for MREIF, right? MREIF has created, next slide please. MREIF has created a digital platform that allows for a seamless mortgage application process, which is easily accessible mreif.com.ng. The digital platform, so you can access the platform at mreif.com.ng, and the digital platform has been set up to make it easy for potential home buyers, home or abroad, to be able to access properties that have been pre-assessed and qualified for MREIF mortgages. Essentially, what that means is that properties that are listed on that platform from pre-qualified and vetted developers. The properties are also verified, confirming that they do have valid title, they do not have any litigation on them, and you can access a mortgage on them on the platform. The platform also makes it possible for you to be able to apply for your mortgage. So it's seamless in terms of interaction. It's easily accessible, and it's been designed such that the number of housing units that are made available. So if you're in the diaspora and you do not know how to go about finding a property, the platform makes it easy for you to find one and initiate and complete your application process. But it's important to note that application for the MREIF mortgage is not restricted to applications on the platform. So you could also engage either a broker, a registered broker, or any real estate professional, or go through. You could also use the BuyLetLive platform to identify a property that, and then ensure that you conduct the adequate, the appropriate due diligence to ensure that the property not only meets the requirements for MREIF, but also is suitable for the mortgage application. So in terms of the applications for MREIF, as stated before, you could apply either through the platform, identify your property, engage the developers for an offer letter, arrange for inspections, and then submit your application to any of the qualified banks. You could also approach any of the 17 banks that have been qualified for MREIF mortgages. Currently, the way MREIF operates is MREIF makes the funding available to banks licensed for mortgages in the country, licensed by the Central Bank of Nigeria, and they include commercial banks and mortgage banks. In terms of commercial banks, we have the likes of Access Bank, Stanbic IBTC, Globus, FCMB, Providus, Union, and Wema Bank. And then for mortgage banks, we have Abbey Mortgage Bank, AG Mortgage Bank, FHA Mortgage Bank, Gateway Mortgage Bank, Home Base Mortgage Bank, Imperial Homes Mortgage Infinity Trust, Living Trust, Lagos Building and Investment Company, and the Nigerian Police Mortgage Bank. Any of these financial institutions, either commercial banks or mortgage banks, if you approach any of their representatives, they would help in processing your MREIF mortgage. But we also like to add that the list is not exhaustive. We are still in engagement with more banks so that there's a wider spread of options for applying for the mortgages. So if you want to apply for the mortgage, and how do you proceed? You go on to the mreif.com.ng. You could conduct an affordability assessment where you are able to input your details such as your income, your age, and the number of years you want to apply for the mortgage. And the calculator will show you how much, based on the information you've provided, how much you'll be able to access in an MREIF mortgage. Once you've done that, the platform will also show you properties that meet that criteria on the platform. You could then select, if you find a property that meets your criteria, you could select on the platform, engage the developers for an inspection or request for an offer letter, and then apply through any of the financial institutions on the platform. Or you could find your property on the platform, ensure you engage a registered broker to conduct due diligence on the property, apply for your MREIF mortgage. So we're happy to take your questions and comments at this point. So over to you, Mr. Gbenga.
Thank you so much, Mr. Olubiyi. I think, I'm sure, not I think, I'm very sure that listeners on this call they move from ambiguity to more knowledge, and I can see that from the kind of questions people have been asking. Before we go to the set questions, I'll take some of the questions that people have raised in the chat, and then I'll go to some other questions that we set. So someone is asking if the 9.75 interest rate it says the yearly 9.75% interest, is it yearly payment on the total worth of the property? I presume the person is asking if it's based on the worth of property or on the loan they've taken. So I think that's what they're comparing. So if I take 30 million, I buy a property of 100 million and I take 30 million mortgage, I got my own 70 million. Am I paying the 9.75 on the total 100 million or on the amount that's taken?
Yes, so the 9.75 is on the loan amount alone, not on the value of the property. So if you are taking a loan, if the value of the property you are buying, for example, is 70 million naira, and you've provided equity contribution of 20 million, for example, and you are taking a loan of 50 million, the 9.75 will be on that 50 million. However, repayment is on a reducing balance basis, which means that as you continue to pay the principal portion of that loan, the interest will continue to be calculated on the balance of the principal that is yet unpaid. So if at the end of year one, you've paid about 10 million naira out of the 50 million naira that you collected, the interest will be calculated on 40 million naira. And, on an ongoing basis like that, you exhaust the payment of the principal amount of 50 million naira.
Thank you. So a writer from that question from Sir Isaac Obielu. Thank you for that question. So a writer on that question, you mentioned reducing balance. So what is MREIF's position on early settlement? So I've taken 50 million, I paid up to 20 million, and then I might get the bonus from work, and I have the 20 million. I have 20 million left in principal to pay, and I have some funds that I can use to settle the 20 million. How does MREIF account for that?
Yes, so we call it prepayments. Prepayments are allowed, and when you prepay, what happens is, one, prepayment is not subject to any penalties or fees. So if you want to prepay your mortgage, you are free to without any additional costs. And secondly, when you prepay, if you are not prepaying the entire principal amount, your interest will now be calculated on the outstanding principal amount. However, if you pay the outstanding principal, then it means that you fulfill the obligation and the process of transfer of ownership to the buyer then commences. So let me illustrate, using numbers. If you originally took a loan of 50 million naira and you've started paying, you will have an outstanding of 20 million naira. Then you approach the bank to say you have 10 million naira to reduce your principal amount. Once you pay that 10 million naira, then the interest would then continue to count on the balance of 10 million naira that you are yet to repay. However, if you are able to pay off that 20 million naira, then your obligation on the mortgage is fulfilled and transfer of ownership commences.
Thank you for that. I see people raising their hands. Sorry, we may not be able to take audio questions, so please drop your questions in the chat. All questions will be attended to. Now, so I'll take this question myself, and Mr. Olubiyi can validate this information. So someone says, are we allowed to source the properties ourselves, or must be from certain pool or provider, or within a certain provider? The second part of the question says, also, can it be anywhere in the country? I'll say that, Mr. Olubiyi can validate this, that to the best of my knowledge, you are not limited to providers. As long as the property meets the criteria for MREIF, which means that you must have a registered title, free of all encumbrance. So far you meet those criteria, that's on the title side, on the property side. And on your own side, you have to qualify as a person. So far you meet those criteria, you will be, and you are ready to go through the due diligence, you will qualify for MREIF. Is that correct, sir, Mr. Olubiyi?
Yes, very correct. It's open to you are open to source for your property, not necessarily from the platform or through MREIF directly. And provided that the property has a valid title, you can apply for any property across the country.
One of the interesting things that you mentioned, sir, is that I've been mentioned a couple of times, and I think I've buttressed on this, is the need to work with, or the need to, let me put it this, the advice, rather, to work with licensed brokers who can hold you through the process, who can help you through due diligence, who can guide, help you start property, so you are not, you don't spend, who can guide you through the process? And that is where a company like BuyLetLive comes in, right? BuyLetLive is a real estate solutions company. We're an agency alongside other tools. We're a full service real estate advisory. We'll support you through due diligence, wherever we get all titles needed, all documents needed. We will introduce you to the bank if you're not sure what bank. Would help you understand, we'll work with you to understand the need. Why are you buying property? So we'll give you advisory and guide you to what we think is best for you based on your use case for the property. So if you are not sure who to meet, definitely you can reach out to us. Our email addresses will be posted on the screen. info@BuyLetLive, Gbenga@BuyLetLive. My name is Gbenga, CEO of BuyLetLive. So Gbenga@BuyLetLive.com, info@BuyLetLive.com, and you can go on our website, www.BuyLetLive.com, and just request. You can either request a property or book a consultation. If you book a consultation, one of our real estate advisors will sit with you, walk you through the journey of understanding what you want to buy, and then we'll then show you what is available alongside, and further down the line, introduce you to the banks, work with you to getting all of the due diligence done. So if you're not sure who to meet, definitely you can reach out to us. Even if you are sure, reach out to us, we'll still support you. And next question says, can someone still access the 25% of pension for the equity if they have already taken the first 25 due to out of work situation for 4 months?
Yes, I believe that is possible because the provisions are different in the sense that you could access there are provisions for different purposes. So if you're out of work for up to 4 months, then you can access which is also applicable if you're out of the country. You could access your 25%, and you could also still access it for the application for a mortgage loan.
Great. So once again, just general, we will not take all the questions. I can see Olusegun Ajakai, you have your hands up, and Olatoyin Alere, you have your hands up. Please post your question in the Q&A. Use the Q&A feature to post your question. The next question says, are the mortgage only limited properties on the MREIF website? We've answered that. Some said they applied through the website, but there's been no offer letter and it's almost a month now. What can they do?
Okay, so this could be due to a couple of reasons. The property could probably have been sold out, or probably just some technical glitches. You could reach out to us directly. If you could share your details, look into what the issue is and have it resolved.
If you reach out to BuyLetLive, we'll also pass your application across and we can support you through that. So next question says, how can people in diaspora subscribe to this? Which is one of the reasons why we set this up. So, sir, how can people in diaspora subscribe to this?
Yes, so there are two ways. One is you could start off on the platform. The MREIF platform makes it very easy to go through the process from finding your property, and then when you do receive your offer letter, arrange for inspections. If you have people on ground who can help you verify the property, but rest assured that any property listed on the platform has been pre-vetted from the title to the survey to any potential litigation, and physical verification as well. But it's also very useful to get boots on ground to help you do that. Once you are comfortable, you could submit your application on the platform to any of the available banks. And just to reiterate, the platform is mreif.com.ng, MREIF.com.ng, or you could go through professionals, either approach any of the professionals who are like BuyLetLive to support you in that journey of finding your property, conducting the due diligence, and then helping you facilitate your application to the financial institutions. So the MREIF process is quite similar, both to Nigerians at home.
For couples, next question is for a couple. If a couple is applying, doing a joint application, do you need documents from both parties?
Yes, the documents from both parties will be required, largely to verify their relationship, the income of both parties, and their ability to service the mortgage. So documents will be required from both parties. However, there will be need for a primary applicant who will provide more information than the secondary applicant.
Okay, so for joint application, there's a primary applicant, there's a secondary applicant. The relationship between both parties needs to be established, and the ability to service loan. One interesting question I've heard is, can siblings do a joint application, or is it limited to only couples?
No, it's limited to couples.
It's really for couples. Also, someone is asking, they have land in Lagos and Abuja. Is the loan really for built-up units, or can they use the loan to can they take the MREIF and use it to build their house?
No, so MREIF is only available for purchase of completed housing units or semi-finished, where the property is 75% completion. That means that the property is at a stage where the external is completed, but internal finishing like tiling, fixtures and fittings internally are yet to be done. But MREIF does not provide funding for either the acquisition of land or the construction of buildings.
So I'm going to take the next question. Mr. Gabriel Gap says, does he have to live in the property or you can sublet while you're out of the country? I think MREIF does not care whether you live or you sublet. The more important thing is you will service the loan, not who you sublet it to. MREIF recognizes you as the mortgagee, and you are the one responsible for servicing the loan. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, that's correct. The goal of MREIF is to improve home ownership, and we also understand that if you are in the diaspora, the potential for you not to live in it, while you're away is also there. So, like I said, it's to improve home ownership, basically.
Next, Femi, your question has already been answered. You're asking if you can take the loan to buy a property of your own from a builder directly. Yes, provided the property meets the criteria for MREIF. Next question is on interest rates. Someone asking, will the interest rate be adjusted due to inflation, or is this fixed for the tenure of the mortgage?
Yeah, so interest rate is fixed for the tenure of the mortgage. So if you take an MREIF mortgage today, the interest rate will remain the same for the life of the tenure that you take it for. And that's a function of the financing model where, we've raised the funding from the government and the private sector at a predetermined return rate. So we're able to determine what the return to the investors are. So that way it's not pegged to commercial interest rates. So yes, the interest rates will remain fixed during the life of the mortgage.
Next question is on age limits. Who can have access to the mortgage? Is there an age limit? I know you have touched this to say there's a 20-year tenure capped at maximum age of 60. You can't, but you can touch, maybe just re-emphasize that. Question is on age limit of who can have access to the mortgage.
Yeah, so in terms of the minimum age limits, of course, you have to be an adult. You need to be able to enter a contract and have sufficient income to service the mortgage. But in terms of maximum limits, it's subject to retirement. Generally, it's 60, but there are exceptional cases where, as judges, the others that have exemptions to have a later retirement age, right, is subject to the number of years that they have left to retire. But on a general note, if you are 40 and below, you can apply for up to 20 years. But 40 and above, subject to the number of years left to retirement, is what you can apply for.
Next question is on locations. I think you've answered that to say all locations within Nigeria are available, provided the property meets the criteria for MREIF, which is registered title, free of encumbrance. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, MREIF is available for any property across the country, provided it has valid title.
And then next question is, how do people in diaspora approach commercial banks? I think you've mentioned this. You've mentioned a couple of banks that they can reach. You've also mentioned that they can go through the MREIF website. And then you've also mentioned that they can contact, they can contact, and they can work with licensed brokers. If you're in the diaspora, this is why we're doing this webinar. You can see it says mortgage for Nigerians in diaspora. So please reach out to BuyLetLive, Charlie. We'll post emails. Please post the emails in the chat. Post emails in the chat. You can reach out to any of the emails that are posted in the chat now, and we'll guide you on the next steps. Next question is, if you're less than 40 years, you can apply. Doesn't mean if you are more than 40 years, you're not eligible. He has answered that. More than 40 years, you're eligible. Tenure is subject to retirement age of retirement. So you're 45 and retirement is pegged at 60 for your work. It means you have maximum of 15 years. You are 50, maximum of 10 years, and as applicable. So next question, for those in diaspora, are there any documents needed for approval?
So the documents that are required for MREIF mortgage is the same whether you are in Nigeria or in the diaspora. And what are those documents? You need to provide a valid offer letter on the property, the title documents, as well as any other associated documents on the property. And then your personal documents, your proof of income, your identification documents, and any other relevant documents in that light. So it's basically those set of documents: personal identification documents, income verification documents, evidence of your location, and then the documents on the property.
Okay. Then someone is asking, I presume this person is contributing to the NHF fund, and is asking, can they use NHF?
No, so MREIF is a completely different scheme, and there's no direct relationship with NHF. So they operate completely independently. You can't access your NHF contribution to apply for MREIF.
Great. The next question is on identity theft. Someone in the diaspora is saying, how do you solve problem of identity theft? Especially that people in the diaspora will need to provide all this proof of identity source. They do not know who they are sending these documents to. So I'll take this and then you can write on it, sir. So one way to help you with this, the diaspora, is to work with licensed brokers. A licensed broker is a registered broker with the government that can be whose a license number can be verified, right? Alternately, you can go to the MREIF website and link directly to our website. But if you want to make double sure, you can work with the license brokers. You do video calls, video inspections. If you have a representative locally that could support you, they would provide all documents. They can verify location, verify their office. I mean, again, due diligence on the property first, due diligence on the brokers you're working with also. So if you need any broker who is working with you should be able to provide some of this proof of identity of their own side, right? To show that they have the license to practice and to support you. Again, BuyLetLive is a licensed broker, so you can reach out to us. But I think that should solve your worry about identity theft. I don't know if you want to add any other thing to that, sir.
Yeah, correct. I believe you've covered it sufficiently.
Basically, someone asking if basically from their job abroad is allowed.
Yes, it's acceptable. And in addition to that, your bank statements showing inflows of your of that income to demonstrate that it's valid income as well.
So the next question is, does this apply to new build properties only? I think new or old, as long as the main criteria is that the property has to be registered and the person you are buying from who is giving you the offer letter needs to show proof of ability to transfer title. They need to establish that they are the legal owners of that title, of that building, or what you're buying, and that they have the right to transfer titles to you. Otherwise, it might not be valid. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, correct. The property, it has to be, it doesn't have to be a new build, either a new or existing building. The most important criteria is that the property has valid and verifiable title that is unencumbered.
Great. Someone is asking, overpayment allowed? What are conditions surrounding it? If yes, I presume, as Mr. Osowe, that what you're asking here is that if you want to do more than the 10% minimum, is that allowed? Yes. What conditions surround it? Same thing. It just means your exposure from a loan point is less, so you're taking less loan. And as Mr. Olubiyi has explained, your interest will be calculated on the loan taking and on the reducing balance level. So I'll take the next question. Can I move into the property once I pay the 10% payment, or do I have to wait till I complete the process, complete payment?
So once you pay the 10% down payment and the bank approves the mortgage amount and the developer is paid, the balance of the 90%, then possession can be taken and you can move in while you continue to make repayment. So as soon as the mortgage application process is completed, you can take possession. However, ownership is not transferred until the mortgage repayment is paid at the end of the tenure. So you can take possession in year one, but you do not become the full owner of the property until you have fully paid off the mortgage.
Which means that, yes, you move into the house, but in terms of who owns the title to the property, it sits with the mortgage provider until you've fully serviced your mortgage, and then there'll be a transfer of title to you. Mr. Yorinde, you asked if you provide phone contact of a genuine mortgage broker. I've put 2 emails there where you can reach out to us, and I'm going to put our official phone number for BuyLetLive. Okay, I think it's on the screen. Do you take this? And then please post the BuyLetLive phone contact. So I've answered you, Mr. Yorinde, and I posted email addresses that you can reach out to, which is Gbenga@BuyLetLive.com, info@BuyLetLive.com. You send an email to any of those, you get a response. You get a response to your inquiry. Alternately, you can go to the BuyLetLive.com website and use the book a consultation or request a property feature to make a request. We'll get your request and we'll treat and we'll engage you accordingly. Next question is, how do you verify the credit reports?
What we stated is the banks typically handle the entire due diligence process. the banks will be responsible for conducting the credit report on the applicant. So that process sits with the banks that will release the funds to you.
Okay, next question says, is the mortgage available for business or is it for purely for residential purposes?
And no, so MREIF is only available for residential purposes alone. So it has to be a residential property that either you or whoever it is you're buying it for will live in. So it's not for business use.
So it's not for commercial properties, for residential properties. Valid title you mentioned, is it for the property to be bought in question? Another property, I think he has answered that the valid title is for the property to be bought. It has to be valid, duly registered, free of encumbrance for MREIF to consider it. Can you give some of the documents regarding title documents required? I think that has been taken. You can find more information on the MREIF website. You can reach out to us on BuyLetLive.com. We'll guide you through the process. Mr. Olubiyi Adekunbi. Someone says, can I secure a property via MREIF? So it's saying, as you know, a developed property can be demolished in the future, as the case in Lagos. So what securities do I have that if I get property through MREIF, it won't be demolished in the future? Mr.
Yeah, so I mean that's a very valid question because of the rate of properties being demolished in Lagos, especially. But the good thing about a mortgage is, irrespective of the due diligence that you or your broker conducts, no bank will issue a mortgage without ensuring that there are no issues with that property. So be rest assured that as long as you are taking a mortgage, either through MREIF or through any financial institution, the potential for your property being demolished for not meeting the necessary requirements is almost not there. It's a stand. I mean, the banks bear the risk of those mortgages. So, if in the process of paying, still servicing the mortgages, and the property gets demolished, the banks will also be exposed. So they always ensure that the properties meet unnecessary planning and necessary regulatory requirements, so that it does not get to that point. So it's very important that when you're buying your property, always, do your due diligence and also take a mortgage to ensure that that additional layer of comfort is there.
Okay, so I'm going to take a few some questions that have been asked. I'm going to take them together because you answered them. Can you get the loan to buy land? No, that has been answered previously. People in Diaspora, what documentation do they need? So I think the interesting thing here is saying, if self-employed, you've touched about proof of employment. So the question is, if self-employed and working and in Diaspora, how do they partake?
Yeah, so the same documents apply, but improving your income, the two things that will be critical will be your audited financial statements showing the nature of your business and your income, as well as your bank statements showing the cash flows that are reflecting in your financial statement. I would say one thing that is very helpful for self-employed applicants is existing relationships with their financial institutions, because it gives them comfort. Of course, if you already have an existing relationship, it demonstrates over the years they will have your history and it gives them comfort. But even if you don't have, they will require that they look into your audited financials for at least 3 years, and then your bank statements verify your income. All other requirements also apply.
So someone is asking, can land that's covered by global CFO qualify for the loan? Mr. It's been clearly stated, if you're buying a house, if you're buying a property, a huge property, on the land that's covered by global CFO, and the person with global CFO is selling or transferring the title, yes, but you cannot use the MREIF mortgage to buy land. So that's from that. Then can we pay off early without penalties? Yes. Mr. Olubiyi has touched that. And you choose to do a payment more than the 9.75, is it allowed? Yes. Meaning you are doing prepayment, which Mr. Olubiyi has touched when he did early in his earlier summary. Someone is asking, what if the amount being asked by seller is slightly more overpriced than comparables? This is where working with a licensed broker comes in, and this is also where a licensed broker will help you negotiate, right? And also, as part of the due diligence process, evaluation of the property will be done, and evaluation report will be provided to show what the value of the property is subject to before the loan is approved. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, correct.
Good. So for someone asking from the diaspora and I don't have pension provider in Nigeria, how do we register on the MREIF site?
So a pension account is not a mandatory requirement for application for a MREIF mortgage. It's only required if you intend to use your pension contribution as part of your equity requirements. So if you do not have a pension account, then you can still apply for the mortgage regardless.
Great. So next question, you've answered it. It's a two-part question. You've answered one part, saying is the 9.75 interest fixed for the loan tenure? Yes. The second question is, if I have an individual with an excellent credit score, would they be able to have access to a lower interest rate than the 9.75 interest?
No, so the interest rate is fixed regardless of your credit score. If you have an excellent credit score, that's what qualifies you for the 9.75% interest rates. Yes, it's fixed across board.
Yeah. And then the next question is, can I take multiple mortgage to buy 2 to 3 properties at once?
Currently, no. MREIF is for, it's primarily, like we said, the purpose is to increase the number of people who own homes within the country. And as such, our focus at the moment is ensuring that as many people apply and successfully buy a property, the better. We wouldn't want a situation where one person is accessing the funding, actually saying that it is concessionary to buy multiple properties. So currently it's one property purchase per applicant.
Okay, the next question is, at what stage of mortgage payments do you take ownership? I believe this is a question on ownership versus occupancy. You can take occupancy after all due diligence has been done and the loan is released. But you take ownership, actual ownership, where the title in your name and all of that, transfer of ownership happens at the end of servicing the mortgage. So you take occupancy once all diligence is done and property and loan is disbursed you pay your equity, but you don't take ownership in title until you service the loan. You completely service the loan. Is that correct, sir?
Correct. Ownership is until the loan is fully settled.
Aside properties from the MREIF website, can I still get the loan and use for other semi-finished projects?
So I think this is a double question, if I can put it that way. Yes, you can apply for properties not on the MREIF sites. However, the extent of finishing, the minimum finishing required on the property before you can apply is 75%. Just to drill down further, it will be required that at least the external is completed and the internal is what is left. Internal being, things like tiles, furniture and fixture fittings, electrical, plumbing, and those are the things that may still be left internally to be done before the mortgage can be issued. But if the property is still under construction, is not roofed, the mortgage won't be issued.
Right, meaning the structure and shape of the house has to be fully established while other things are ongoing. So I think okay, contact details of who I can speak to for the mortgage directly. I will posted emails. And then the next question says, what happens in cases of defaults?
So in the event of defaults, so to start with, one of the requirements in applying for the mortgage is an insurance. And the insurance cover will cover things like if there's a physical damage to the property, or if you lose your job and you're unable to continue servicing the mortgage. That insurance cover will sustain for a couple of months, say up to 12 months or 24 months, depending on the policy you go for. And within that period, if you are still unable to, get a job that's able to service the mortgage, then the bank will exercise its right to foreclose the property, which means that they will take over possession put it back into the market. Once it's been sold, the portion of principal that you have paid since inception will be refunded back to you, while the property is put back into the market.
Okay, great. Someone is asking if the MREIF is limited to couples only. No. However, joint application is only for couples. It is not limited to couples generally, but joint applications is only for couples. Question. Okay, for those asking if they're going to get the recording, if you registered, we'll be sending a link to the recording across to registered attendees. Retirement age in the West generally is older than 60. Will that be put into consideration?
So the retirement age, averagely in Nigeria is 60, but exceptions are applicable where to certain professions like judges, lecturers, and the rest that are above 60. But where the employer is able to demonstrate that the retirement age is above that 60, then yes, consideration will be given to that. Great. So the maximum age essentially is the retirement age.
So question is, you answered this. Someone asking if it's available for residential commercial rent. MREIF does not cover rent. It's purely for acquisition of properties and residential also. And the question is on tax clearance certificate for those in diaspora. What tax clearance certificate is needed and how do they get that?
So, if I'm just trying to understand the question clearly, is the question to get the tax clearance to apply for the mortgage, or does it entitle them to get the tax clearance? So if you are in the diaspora, right, of course, if you are going to file for your taxes, it's going to be zero tax. And as such, it will be clear from your form. You'll be filing the zero taxes, and that should be sufficient for you to apply. To the best of my knowledge, I think that is the question that is being asked. But of course, you can approach or visit the FIRS platform for the process for applying for the tax certificate.
There's a question on a combination of UK income with Nigerian income. Is that possible? And a link to that is also saying which bank statements would they need to provide? It's not possible. Which bank statements would they provide? Their UK bank statements or Nigerian bank statements. This is from someone in diaspora.
Okay, so in terms of being able to combine your Nigerian and your UK income, that's subject to the bank's risk assessment criteria and the bank's assessment of your credit history, right? Like we said, MREIF or ARM does not disburse the fund directly to the buyers. We disburse to the banks. The banks do their due diligence and check their comfort level with each applicant to be able to issue the mortgages to them. So yes, it could be possible, but it could vary depending on the financial institution if it falls within their risk assessment criteria for you to combine your income from UK and Nigeria. But to the best of my knowledge, yes, it should be possible.
Okay. Let's see. I think so. Someone saying, so once 10% is paid and the loan is secured, I'll get access to it and keep paying the loan from there. Yes, after all due diligence is done. In the event that down payment is made and mortgage provided, will the house in question be touched up or will it be sold as seen? This is where you have to be very clear what you are buying from the developer, from the seller, right? If the seller says he's selling as is, then that will be so. This is not dependent on MREIF. But whatever you're buying, you have to be clear with the developer, and it has to be clearly stated in your offer letter. If you are selling as is, or as a carcass, it has to be clearly stated in the offer letter, and the conditions stated in the offer letter will be matched against the valuation that is done as part of due diligence. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, so in applying, this is subject to, and this is why we say two things. you need to engage professionals to help you negotiate and verify the status of what it is you're applying for. Two, you also need to physically visit and agree and negotiate with developers what it is. MREIF will not get involved in the states of the finishing of the property on your behalf. That is entirely within the remit of the applicant. So it's very important that professionals are they help in negotiating some of these things. Especially when it comes to pricing, if there are outstanding things that needs to be done on the property, then that can be factored into your pricing negotiations.
Okay, let me see what other question we have there. Can I buy the property and use it for short-term rentals or Airbnb? And whenever I come in Nigeria, I can decide the duration of my stay. As explained earlier, that's to disclosure. That's your call. So also just stating that for those asking for the recording, the full webinar, the full recording of the webinar will be available on BuyLetLive YouTube page. And for those asking for contact numbers to be provided, someone is asking, is there a credit score in Nigeria or abroad? It will depend on your location. If you are applying as a Nigeria-based, as someone based in Nigeria, then it will also depend on the bank details you are providing. If you are providing your Nigerian bank details, then yes, credit score will be based on that. And if you are providing based on your location in Diaspora, credit score will be based on that. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, the credit score will be for your country of residence, where you currently reside and where you make your income.
Okay, Mr. Olubiyi, I know we are 1 minute. This is a 1 hour webinar, 1 minute, and it's been a really engaging one. Any final thoughts, final questions? And okay, so maybe before then, someone's asking, can they go from start to finish on the MREIF website and complete online as well? Then the second part of it is, what is the estimated timeline from start to finish?
Yes, the process can be started and you can commence and complete on the platform. And the estimated timeline, averagely, we've seen transactions complete, from start to finish between 3 to 6 weeks. And this is putting into consideration that the applicant is ready, the developer or the seller of the property is also ready with all their documents, and there are no hiccups in between. We've seen transactions close with within a short time frame of 3 weeks, 1 month. It's all dependent on the readiness of the applicant. From MREIF's perspective, the review and application process is a very, it happens within a very short window, within 48 to 72 hours max, especially if they are back and forth with the bank when they are drawing down the funds. MREIF is able to release the funds to the banks to be able to complete that process. So the journey is largely dependent on the readiness of the applicants and the seller of the property, in making it swifter to complete the process.
Okay, someone is saying, I currently earn, okay, so I'll take this too. If I have 50 to 60% of the value of the property, can I say apply for MREIF to finance balance amount? Yes. You must have at least 10%. If you have more than that, all well and good. And then someone else says, what's the maximum amount? That's been answered. Maximum amount per mortgage is 100 million, subject to your income being able to carry service that loan. And then someone says, I currently earn 500K, I'm not married yet. Can I access this loan?
Yes, you can, subject to the value of the property you're looking to apply for. Like we said, MREIF is available anywhere in the country. And, there, of course, if you're applying for a property in Lagos and Abuja, property values are significantly higher. But there are other parts of the country where, the property values are significantly lower. And, with the 500,000 naira salary, you should be able to find a property in, certain regions, provided that the loan amount you are taking is not too significant for you to be able to service the mortgage.
Yeah. I think one thing there is, and you can validate or correct this, is that typically for mortgages, and MREIF not an exception, there's a debt to income ratio that's not more than 3 So whatever you're paying, whatever for the loan you take, by the time your salary is reviewed and all, you won't be able to take a loan where you are required to pay more than a third of your income, unless you have other source of income. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, correct.
Okay, great. So also what happens when I want to resell without completing the payment?
No, so that's not going to be possible. And that's because ownership is not transferred until you fulfilled all your loan obligations. So if you want to sell while you're still servicing the mortgage, you won't be able to complete that process as you do not have valid title yet. So it's best selling the property is best done when you've fulfilled all your loan obligations to the bank.
And the other question is on Nigerians. I mean, someone in diaspora that has not been banking using a Nigerian bank. Prior to now, they've not done or had any business in Nigeria before. How does that apply for them?
Yes, I mean, what you need to do is establish a banking relationship with any of the financial institutions and then demonstrate your income over the last couple of years with them. Some may require that you maintain that relationship for a couple of months before they issue the mortgage, just so that they get comfortable.
Okay. Okay, this has been answered. Pretty interesting one. Someone is asking, how long will the MREIF be around for? Is it tied to this current government?
No. So, and I think I will speak a little bit more on this particular point, right? The way MREIF has been set up in this instance is slightly different from, the other housing schemes that are in the country. MREIF is set up to collaborate with them, but it's been set up as a private sector driven entity, which has been registered for 99 years. So, given the legal framework of the fund, MREIF is going to outlive this current administration, and it's envisaged to last 99 years, which can also be extended at the end of the tenure, which is far longer than the maximum tenure of mortgages that we are currently looking at. So MREIF is here to stay.
Good. The other question is, how long does it take to get the mortgage executed? Because some advances might not be available if the process takes long. So I'll think a bit on this. So there are two things here, right? With the mortgage process, you need to be ready to go through due diligence so that you do not fall in the wrong hands. And then this is also where working with a licensed broker applies. A licensed broker is someone who most likely has a relationship with the developer or the seller of properties, and they may be able to put in some word for you to say, hey, we've vetted this person, is serious, and then they can help you. They hold you through the process, and so it is faster, right? Because they build a relationship with the mortgagers, they build a relationship with the developers, so they support you end to end. And also is that they will guide you through the process, and they can speak for you with developers. But you need to be ready to do due diligence. Someone asked a question earlier on how do you secure your properties. One of the only ways to secure your properties or your investment is by rigorous due diligence. So it's never too much to do due diligence at the risk of losing your property. So MREIF exists to support you to own properties, but then you have to be willing to do due diligence. I don't know if you want to speak more on this, sir.
No, I think you've covered it extensively in the interest of time.
So some say BuyLetLive recommend to us licensed brokers. BuyLetLive is a licensed broker, and we have access to over 50 developers in Lagos and across rest of the country. So reach out to us at BuyLetLive, www.buyletlive.com. Use the book a consultation or request a property feature, and an experienced advisor would walk you through the process. So you can reach out to BuyLetLive directly. We are licensed brokers. You can reach out to me, Gbenga at BuyLetLive.com. Send email to info@buyletlive.com. From any of these, we will reach out and we would engage and support you through the process. Thank you so much, Mr. Olubiyi. Do you have any final words before we wrap up this webinar? And thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much for the platform. I think it's been very useful in providing insights to interested applicants. I would only encourage that, people begin to consider, initiating that process of finding their preferred property and commencing the mortgage application. The best time to buy a property was probably a decade ago, but it's never too late. We've seen the potential for capital appreciation in the residential real estate markets over the last 5 years. And, it provides a very viable and sustainable opportunity to acquire a property, especially given the interest rate of 9.75%. Essentially, it's as good as the government paying you to buy a property at that rate, given that interest rate and inflation is more than double that. So I think it's a very, very fantastic opportunity, and would encourage people to either contact BuyLetLive, go on the MREIF platform, or visit any of the banks to initiate the application process.
Thank you so much, sir, for your time. We really appreciate you taking this time out to educate Nigerians, both local and diaspora, on how to use the MREIF scheme to their advantage. Once again, to everyone, you can reach out to us on BuyLetLive, info@buyletlive.com, Gbenga@buyletlive.com will lead you directly to me, and we would what we'll give you, we provide 24/7 coverage for your questions. So even if you're in diaspora, you're in the US time zone, someone will be available to speak to you, walk you through the process, run you through inspections, share a list of property options with you, and hold you through the entire process. So you are in the right place to find your properties. On that note, we say thank you to everyone who has joined. The recording will be made available. You can reach out to us on all our social media platforms. Just for BuyLetLive. You can send questions through any of our social media platforms, and we would also take your questions from there. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Mr. Olubiyi. We really appreciate your time and for doing a very detailed justice to this session. Thank you, everyone. We look forward to supporting you in your home ownership journey. Bye, everyone. The number, okay, yeah. So you can reach out to the number on the screen, emails, and we'll take it from there. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.